There's also $10 billion in this budget for cybersecurity. Who's Australia trying to protect itself against?
We have been the victim of cyber attacks in recent years, and there have been some attributions in relation to those cyber attacks to countries like Russia. We saw in relation to the war in Ukraine that tragically before the first bullet was fired and the war deteriorated into the terrible humanitarian catastrophe that we're seeing, there were initially cyber attacks launched. This is the new modern arm of warfare. And just as we have restored Australia's defence spending to 2% of GDP from levels which we inherited were their lowest since 1938, we now recognise that there's a need to uplift capability in our cybersecurity. A $9.9 billion investment over the next year will create around 1,900 new roles in cybersecurity and create additional defensive and offensive capabilities. We have some of the best in the world already. We were indeed helping Ukraine prior to the invasion in relation to their cyber capabilities, but we want to make sure we remain at the cutting edge because it's about protecting our energy networks, our communications networks, our critical infrastructure in a range of ways, our banking systems and so forth, from the threats that other nations or non-state players can play in the cyberspace.
Couldn't help but notice that you didn't mention China. I do wonder if that was deliberate. And what's happening to improve relations with China on that front? And how would the growth picture look if relations were to improve?
Well, we can still see strong dividends from trade with China, but their more assertive stance in relation to national security has eroded, I think, China's standing in terms of investor confidence around the world. The positions they've taken in areas that undermine the sovereignty of other nations or threaten operations through the South China Sea remain of deep concern to Australia. We have made sure that we invest in the protection of our nation's defences there. We'll continue to do that in response to all of the threats that we see. We would welcome the opportunity for effective ministerial level dialogue with China. We've said that for a long period of time. We view their trade sanctions against Australia as unfair, punitive and unjustified. We're not going to give ground to shallow lists of demands that they give, to coercion that they apply, but certainly we want to see a peaceful and prosperous region. We will work with all of our partners through the Quad, through other mechanisms to do that, and stand willing to talk to China and to engage in ways that can reduce some of the aggressions or tensions that have been elevated due to their actions.